Ann Lunas. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Adobe.
And thank you very much indeed for joining us. It was 2008 when Adobe was last in the BrandZ sector rankings. 2015 you're back in. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
A lot's happened in that period of time. Perhaps you can just start giving us your perspective on, I suppose, the Adobe journey from then to now.
Yeah, so we started out as a package software company and very successful in the creative space with Photoshop and brands like that. And probably 5 years ago, the company really started to transform itself. We made, I would say, two very big decisions. The first, to turn our package software business into a cloud-based subscription business. So take what had been Creative Suite and 13 very successful applications and offer those on a monthly subscription basis. And the purpose of that was really to be able to offer kind of a continuous flow of innovation to customers. Rather than introducing software every 18 or 24 months, we could basically push out new innovation on a continuous basis, offer more value to the customer.
Was that a difficult decision for the company to make?
My goodness.
I mean, you know, we sort of hear the trends of people not wanting to own stuff, preferring to sort of rent it out. But when push comes to shove and you have to move from selling product to a subscription service, it's a very big decision.
Massive undertaking. I think the transformation of the company was huge in every possible area. Product development, because you're constantly innovating and able to send the product out to customers. On the marketing side, I needed a completely different type of skill set because you're doing what we call 52 weeks of innovation. So every week we have new features. At the same time, marketing evolved considerably, and digital marketing. We were a very early kind of player in that field, and we ended up buying Omniture at that time, so we became kind of the de facto leader in that field, and we were using all the digital marketing technology to optimize this new B2C kind of subscription-based service. So, I mean, everything at the company changed. And we also had to kind of rebrand the company as a cloud-based company. So big transformation, and still kind of underway. Today we're introducing our new Creative Cloud version for 2015, and so it's constant.
You talked a little bit about, I suppose, the way in which you move from products to services. Tell us a little bit more about the strategy behind that and why web-based services are so important to you from a brand perspective.
Yeah, so we evolved our Creative Suite package software business into Creative Cloud, and at the same time we decided we wanted to go into an adjacent business that was very complementary to the creative business, and that's digital marketing. So we bought Omniture, which was a cloud-based web analytics company, and we realized that this was the kind of wave of the future, that people want to be able to use cloud-based services because, again, you're constantly getting that new innovation and updates. And so we decided at that point we're going to become a cloud service company. Our offerings all basically have moved to that. We've even now announced a document cloud, and that's based on Acrobat and that PDF franchise. People want new technology on a consistent basis. They want to be able to get in at an entry-level price that's more acceptable to them. Our products can be expensive in the old model, and now you can come in if you're just using Photoshop at $20 a month rather than put forth that upfront payment.
The relationship, I suppose, now between, well, maybe it's the new millennium consumer having the purchasing power now of wanting not necessarily to physically own a product, but much happier at sort of buying in and buying out of. So was that something that was also driving your thinking process about just really a fundamental change in attitudes with consumers about how they go about buying things, using things?
Yeah, I mean, clearly millennials are much more comfortable with a service model. And again, I think it's easier for them to get into a service if there's a low barrier. So that definitely factored into it. Students and young people are huge creators. Every kid is making videos and taking photos, and a lot of them actually want to create photos and videos that are of a higher quality than you can do with some free services. But we also do have free apps. So we have a whole new array of mobile applications that are free, and they're designed to let you create on the go. So if you're on the train and you want to sketch something, if you are somewhere and you want to capture a photo, if you want to create a brush, something that you've seen in nature, you can do all that, and then we let you seamlessly link that to any creative tool. So I think just the generational shift to being able to have a lot of mobility in the way that you work, and the ability to subscribe to something that hopefully you'll stay with, but that you don't feel absolutely is a must forever. I think that's just what people are comfortable with now.
Well, we're sitting here in San Jose, I suppose the epicenter around us of every single tech company you can imagine. An amazing amount of innovation still going on in this industry. How do you sort of relate in Adobe between being sort of a technology-led company, which clearly you are, but also now a brand-led company?
Yeah, so I think we were always a brand-led company and a technology company. We were probably more heavily weighted toward a technology company early on, and I think most technology companies, that's the heritage. But I think our products, by their very nature, because they're creative tools and marketing products, they were always used by marketing people and by creative people who really value brand. And so we always took it very seriously that the brand needs to stand for certain items, creativity, innovation. We have a heavy focus here on community, so not only in the communities that we operate, but we call our customers the community because we make our products for them. And so I think there was always just a nascent kind of brand heritage that we really valued. At the same time, innovation is constant here, and so the technology, that's our business, right? We don't have factories, we have people. And so that's the core asset of the company, and the people that we hire are innovative engineers, computer scientists, data scientists, but we feel like the brand is a huge asset for us.
And how important is the brand in decision-making process in the organization?
Big. The brand, I mean, again, we take it super seriously, and we always think about decisions. Good example being Creative Cloud. We knew that there would be some people who might not be excited about shifting from a package company to a cloud-based company. And we thought really hard about how are we going to communicate that so that people feel okay with it. There were some people who didn't like it. We took their feedback super seriously. We made some modifications to policies or pricing. So the community drives a lot of the decision making here, and we believe that transparency and an open dialogue with the community is what makes our products really good.
And how do you imbue what the brand is all about to, I suppose, the engineering community within the organization? So that as they're designing products, as they're thinking about the innovation, it's from a brand-centric point of view as opposed to innovation for innovation's sake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in addition to the Adobe brand being important to us, we have product brands that are very important to us. So Photoshop being, the most obvious example. People have an idea about Photoshop that is very strong, and you can't mess with it. So Photoshop just celebrated its 25th anniversary. The team that works on that, many of them have worked on it, from the beginning. They feel like they have a reputation to uphold. They take Photoshop super seriously. The community of users is very vocal, very engaged, and so it's a part of how they design the software. The expectation is that this will be the best product in the category, and that's what drives this whole company.
And in terms of sort of innovation, product life cycles, the development of new ideas, the concept now of not having to wait to a new release date, how is that changing the way in which both the organisation works and the way in which the brand wraps around all of that?
Yeah, well, a cloud-based service is a lot of work. So, you're constantly...
You can't hide behind a release date then.
No, no. I mean, it's continuous. And so, we had to learn how to work that way.
Because in a sense, that's the promise to the consumer, isn't it? Which
Exactly.
is there will be this constant drip of innovation throughout the year.
Exactly, and so marketing has the onus to communicate every new feature, every new service, every new update. Social media has helped us a lot there because it's an easier mechanism to get the word out. But we have a troupe of evangelists who are really the experts in both the creative business as well as the marketing business. They're 24 hours a day. They're communicating, writing blogs, getting comments and feedback from the community on how they think things are going. But it's created a more, I would say, steady state of marketing rather than the ups and downs of major releases. There are still kind of milestone releases, but it's made us be much more constant in the noise level that we have, and that took a while for people to get used to.
Looking at a more sort of macro perspective, I mean, the world's changing really fast. We've been evaluating brand value for the last 10 years. Looking to the future, what do you think the key challenges are going to be for marketeers to create, maintain and grow valuable brands?
I think, and I say this in the ever so nicest way, I have found that marketers are not the most risk-oriented group of people, and fairly resistant to change. And I think that's a death sentence, because when you're in marketing today, I think it's the best time to be in marketing. You have to be a change agent, because the technology, the pace of marketing has changed. If you are going to have a constant conversation with your constituents and your customers, you have to be on the ball. If something isn't working, your customers will tell you about it. You need to be able to change it quickly. If you get feedback on something, you need to really listen to it. And so I think social has completely changed the landscape. I think mobile has completely changed the landscape. I mean, mobile has overtaken PCs. Mobile has overtaken, in some cases, television as the ` way to communicate messages. We have to come up with a good way, because I don't think we have a great model yet for mobile marketing. So I think video is it's a game changer in the marketing world. We use video so successfully. It's probably the #1 driver of traffic to our website.
And that's video as a communication tool,
Yes.
an instruction tool,
Well,
inspiration tool. Is that right across that sort of mix?
It's education, it's entertainment. I don't think you can, really create effective video unless it's both educational and entertaining. And of course, there's still advertising, and I think that model is starting to evolve. But I think the biggest issue in marketing today is people's resistance to putting, sufficient wood behind it. And I talk to peers all the time who are still very reticent about taking the plunge. And my advice is always, you've got to do it. You're already late, essentially, because the next generation of customers, that's their life. Their life is multiple devices. Their life is quick messaging. They expect responsiveness. They expect transparency from the brands from whom they purchase. So it's time.
Do you think the brands are going to become more important or less important over the course of the next few years, given all the themes that you've so eloquently spoken about?
I think brand will always be important, because I think I see it in my own children. They have affinity towards certain brands. And I think it's incumbent upon marketers to create that linkage. And it's harder today because the attention span of everyone, children and adults, is so, everybody's distracted. And so I think we have to work harder to create those relationships. It's still based, #1 on product quality. We've done survey after survey, and the #1 thing people care about is product quality. They're not going to buy from you because they think you do great advertising. So you need to start with that, and then you need to understand the market. And now is such a great time to understand your customers, because there are so many technologies that enable you to really understand insights, understand behaviors, things that we never dreamed that we could have before. So your job as a marketer is to collect all of that information and put it into product development, and then communicate on a regular basis.
How do you go about doing that? Your products are the building blocks of most realizing creativity around the world. You've got users, hundreds of thousands, millions of users, in fact, around the world, integrating, using your products every day. They are very vocal in terms of what they like and what they dislike. How do you amass the blogs, the writings people make in order to work out what needs to be done to the products?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different touch points, and we have a group called Marketing Insights and Operations, and they're responsible for everything from market research to web analytics to data analytics, and they're responsible for synthesizing all of the various sources of data, including, incidentally, in product data, because now that we're a subscription service, people are constantly using the product, and we can collect data from that usage. It's all anonymous because we're very, very serious about privacy, but we can synthesize.
So when it says report it back to Adobe, you really do listen to it. Something
We
actually
do.
does come back, does it?
We do, we do. And we have these evangelists and social media networks where you can't ignore feedback. The days of sitting back in your ivory tower and listening to people complain, those are over. You have to act upon it. And if you're not going to change something, you need to explain why. That happens to us all the time. People may complain about something and we'll explain to them, we'd love to be able to do this, we can. They'll tell us sometimes something that we can do, and we'll modify it. And there's nothing like making a change to a product or a policy, and the loyalty that you get in return for that, because it's a value exchange. It's huge.
How do you quickly take the feedback that comes from the users and make that work inside the company? Because a lot of people are really struggling with this. The blogs, the social networks are providing huge amounts of insight, but actually taking that insight and being able to hardwire it into the key elements of the company that can make the difference is a really difficult struggle that many marketeers are challenged with at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we have a centralized group that's responsible for data collection across all the various touch points, whether it's email or display, social media, the blogs, on the website, and that group is like hardwired to do this on a very, very consistent basis. We also have people in the product group. So the Photoshop team, they man the lines of the Photoshop social media network because people have deep level questions that marketing departments may not be able to answer. So it's a combination, but I do think you need a centralized organization that's responsible for data synthesis and reporting. And then each of the different groups, there's additive information, but we're in constant communication with one another because, to your point, if somebody gets one impression from data and another group gets different impression, we need to be aligned around the data. So we have a group that we call the single source of truth, and they're responsible for getting one view and disseminating that across the company.
And how are you managing your data now? Because again, a number of the key challenges that marketeers and organisations are facing is just the amount of data that's being created, being thrown off by the devices that they're putting in, by the networks that they're encouraging to activate. But yet unbelievably challenging to take that data and create insight out of it. So what's the secret? How do you do it?
Yeah, there's a huge amount of data, and I think the first step is that you have to understand upfront what you're looking for. So you need to set your goals at the beginning of the process. Are you focused on awareness? Are you focused on bookings? Are you focused on revenue? And that's how we work here. So early in the process, we say these are the things that we're going to be looking for, and then you can set those questions and look for the data that is going to answer those questions, because data is meaningless unless it's actionable. And so I think a lot of people make the mistake of just sorting through a ton of data and hoping to find insights. You have to know what you're looking for.
The future. Creativity, it's coming. It's more scale than it ever was, so I'm glad it's still coming. You are at the epicenter, as we've said, of creativity. How do you view creativity in the future?
Well, it's interesting. We've done some surveys on creativity, and people remarkably don't consider themselves to be very creative. In fact, in many cases, they feel disincentivized to be creative. They feel like productivity is the #1 request from, for instance, in their jobs. And so our job is to make creativity cool and to make creativity something that everybody feels that they can do. And again, I think the time that we live in, where creativity is everywhere and everybody can be a creator, whether you're taking a photograph, whether you're making a video, whether you're designing your own website, those used to be the domain of creative professionals, and now they're the domain of every person. And so we want to make, creativity something that you feel that you can do. It's not something that's, for an elite set of people, and you can use it every day.
And is that, that's a lofty goal in a sense. Is that
is.
something that's quite liberating for the people that work in Adobe? Because, we often talk collectively about brands, but one of the key elements of brands is actually the internal organization brands. So
Yeah.
what is it that drives the people here at Adobe?
Well, we take creativity very seriously. We think it still matters. And, we have a pretty high bar here because we're a creative software company. So we try really hard to be best in class, and I think the work speaks for itself. We're able to attract really good creative people because they have access to, firsthand access to our solutions. And so, but I think it all starts with creativity. It all starts with a great idea, with a compelling message, a visual articulation of that message, and then if you lay upon that insights about the customer, which you can now glean from all the marketing technology that we have, that's the winning formula.
Well, finally, Anne, the future is less certain than it ever was. Creating brands is becoming harder than it ever was. You're in charge of masterminding one of the biggest technology brands in the world. What advice would you give for young marketeers who are just starting their career on what they need to know and understand in this new world to grow big, valuable brands?
Yeah, so I think it starts with creativity. That's still the kernel and the DNA of what marketing is about. I think use data insightfully, but still use judgment. I don't think marketing is ever going to be done by robots, and so there's still a lot of human judgment that goes into it. Value your community. Think really about the customer and put the customer first. And I know everybody says that in marketing, but the customer is your brand. And then lastly, I think you have to be very transparent and open. And that was never something that was expected from brands. And now, every interaction you have with someone is meaningful, and the expectations of brands, whether it's, the ingredients in your product, how much your CEO makes, all of those are public information. And the more transparent you are with your customers, the more loyalty you'll see.
Having said one last question, finally, I'm going to ask you one last real final question. Looking at the brands that you interact with on a sort of, maybe not just on a professional basis, but on a personal basis, which one brand, two brands do you find today is central to your life?
I'll use maybe Shazam. I think Shazam is one of the greatest brands. I remember when I first used it, I said, oh my God, it's the future. I think the idea of it is just incredible. I use it every day. I think maybe in terms of more long-standing brands, I think Coca-Cola continues to do a fantastic job. I think it's still relatable, it's still consistent with how it started, so I would say that's a great consumer brand.
Right, Anne, well, thank you very much indeed. It's been a great privilege to speak to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.